Okay, today we're going to talk about how to graph a quadratic inequality. And in our previous sections, we have already studied graphing quadratics. And remember that when we graphed a quadratic, the first thing we did was we found the vertex, and then we plotted some points. We're going to do the exact same thing here, except that since this is an inequality, we're also going to have shading. That's what you should remember about inequalities. In graphing an inequality, you're going to have shading. So we're going to graph like a normal quadratic. We're going to use a dotted line if it's a greater than or less than symbol and not a greater than or equal to or less than or equal to symbol. We're going to have a dotted line in our graph. And the last thing is, to do shading, we're going to test a point. We're going to plug a number in to see if it makes the equation true. And that'll determine whether we do shading or not. We're going to do this on the problem y is less than negative x squared plus 3x minus 1. So the very first thing that we're going to do is we're going to find the vertex in this problem. To find the vertex, we're going to do negative b over 2a. So negative 3 over 2 times negative 1. So the x value of our vertex is going to be a positive 3/2. That's the x value. Okay, so once we find the x value of the vertex as positive 3/2, we're going to plug in the positive 3/2 into the equation to find the y value. So we do that here. We have the opposite of 3/2 squared plus 3 times 3/2 minus 1. The opposite of 3/2 squared is negative 9/4. 3 times 3/2 is 9/2. And we still have our negative 1. To add those fractions, we have to have a common denominator. The common denominator is 4, so we have negative 9/4. We multiply the 9/2 by 2 over 2 to get 18/4, and we change the negative 1 by multiplying it by 4 over 4 to get negative 4 over 4, and those add up to 5/4. So once we have our vertex at 3/2 and positive 5/4, we're going to go ahead and plot that, and after we plot that, then we're going to make a t-graph and go ahead and plot some points to get the general shape of our graph. So when choosing what our inputs are going to be, I of course like simple math, and that means I'm going to input a 0 in for the x value, and when I plug in a 0 for the x value, I'm going to get 0 plus 0 minus 1, and so the y is negative 1, and I'll go ahead and plot that, and I'll plot its mirror opposite for my axis of symmetry. That will give me 2 more points on my graph, and really at this point that's a general shape that's good enough for me. And then I'm going to go ahead and continue the graph. It's going to be a dotted line, and so I'm going to have a nice smooth curve through the vertex, and now I have to do shading. Now when I do shading, I'm going to pick a point that's not on the graph to see if it makes the equation true. And in this case, I like to pick the point 0, 0, because it makes the math easy. So, is 0 less than 0 plus 0 minus 1? And of course the answer is it's not. And that means that 0, 0 is not part of the solution, and therefore everything inside of the parabola has to be part of the solution. So we're going to go ahead and shade what's inside, and that is how you graph a quadratic inequality.